Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luís Silvestre. I'm a journalist working in Sábado News magazine, a Portuguese magazine. I'd like to introduce the guests for this roundtable. We're going to discuss consumer awareness in the field of aquaculture and other related subjects on this particular issue. I'm going to start to introduce Rita Vesnik. Please correct me if it's not the correct pronunciation. She works in the Futurama. She's from Norway. And she is a specialist in this particular issue, namely finding integrated solutions for sustainable growth in food production. My other guest is Tiago Aires. He was not on the panel. He's just substituting António Isidoro that couldn't be here. He works at Soja de Portugal, which is a specialist company that produces mainly all sorts of food, nutrition, and also is really a nutritionist. So besides working in this company, he has that field of knowledge. The other one is Pedro Encarnação. He's a business director, business development director of Biomin Singapore, which is a company specialized in animal nutrition. And he could give us some insight on this particular field and what are the news on that particular issue also. And finally, Pedro Leandro. He works as a commercial director at Jerónimo Martins, which owns one of the biggest retailing markets in Portugal. So I'm going to start by Rita asking her, what is exactly the trend in food production from your point of view and your knowledge?
No. I didn't push any button.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We're on the air, and all the viewers around the world is also with us, you know, so it's a great opportunity to share some viewpoints. I don't have the answer to what are the trends, because they differ from culture to culture, country to country. But of course, the big picture will be that we need more food production on this planet. And as we have heard earlier today, arable land is scarce. And we are also actually facing limitations on how much we can harvest on the present resources in the oceans. So a lot of the food production has to come from aquaculture. And I myself, I work with a company in Singapore, where you are located, by the way, and a Norwegian company, and we work on closed environments for both agriculture and aquaculture, and we can talk more about that later.
I'm going to ask, in terms of the suppliers that provides the food for the aquaculture industry. In this particular subject, there have been some concerns. Okay. There has been some concerns from the consumers, namely about some security issues. What can you tell us about that? How can the industry reply to these fears and myths?
This is a very interesting question. I think it depends on where you are producing, actually, because Europe has one of the strictest regulations on food production, which means that we have a legal framework that is actually quite strong, and that supposedly it gives safety to what you are eating. it is not the case in other parts of the world, but I would say there is a trend to increase food safety generally worldwide. At least there is an effort in that direction. One of the things that we must think of is that seafood, both aquaculture or wild catch, is traveling the world. It's not uncommon to say that shrimp farmed in Asia will be eaten in the United States, or Chilean salmon which will be eaten in Japan. So it's actually a global problem, worldwide situation. But I think the industry makes a real effort in order to bring safety to their products and downstream in the chain of value. I think we can say that. But it depends on the place we are, of course.
I'd like to ask someone that lives in Singapore. Perhaps there's a different way, a different cultural way of accepting this kind of industry. And what are the differences, the main difference that you find, since you live in Asia, between Asia and Europe, for instance?
Yes, there is quite a different approach in terms of acceptance of aquaculture products when you compare Asia to Europe or even in the United States. Asia produces 90% of aquaculture. So in Asia, aquaculture is very well accepted. People do not question where the fish is coming, if it is coming from aquaculture or if it's coming from the wild. We see that here more in Europe or in the United States, people still prefer to eat wild fish, and that is a particular case in Portugal, where for us eating fish from aquaculture, we always say, no, this does not taste the same, it's not the same. But the fact is that aquaculture is here to stay, and most of the production of fish or the consumption of fish, of the fish protein, more and more is going to come from the aquaculture industry. And this is a good example is Asia, where it is well accepted because aquaculture has been part of their supply of fish for a long time.
I now would like to ask a person that deals directly with a consumer and can feel the trends. We were just talking a few minutes ago about the different acceptance even between generations, old people, the young generations. What kind of different aspects of food acceptance are there, if it's possible to resume it?
Okay, what we can feel or what we can observe in the consumer trends or consumer requests when we are selling fish, it's that old generations are looking for wild fish more often, and they request some fish from wild fishing. When it comes to new generations, or when mothers of young children are buying fish, they have a special concern in some types of fish that are coming mainly or almost 100% from aquaculture. This means that some children are used or get the habit of tasting fish from aquaculture. As a practical example, we can refer salmon. It is a fish that some children are eating quite often, and if you try to give some wild salmon to some kid or some children, they will reject it because they are used to the taste of the salmon from aquaculture. So we observe that new generations are more open. They get the habit of consuming aquaculture fish old generations. They are looking and they are requesting the fish from wild catch.
Let me get back to Rita. Rita worked in several development projects in food production, and you can tell us new concepts, new ideas that eventually, for instance, in Asia are quite common, and here in the Western countries we are not so used to. Can you give us some examples of that experience that you had?
Yeah, one experience is that we are now building a plant in China to produce Norwegian cod on land in a closed environment, which is not done yet, and I don't say we succeeded because it's not done yet, but it's being built, and we have signed a contract on that. And these partners, they also produce things that we don't eat, that they sell for, you know, a lot of money, and that is also very nutritious, like the sea cucumber. That also is an aphrodisiacum to many of the Asian men, especially. So there are a lot of tastes, and I understand that the Chinese, they eat table fish, 1 kilo or a little more, you know. So there are, and I also hear that my Singaporean friends, they want to serve their children cod at least twice a month, but that is very expensive, and that they often are offered only fake cod. What that might be, but it's not the cod that we're used to. Well, we're talking about different markets, but we must remember that not all of us belong to the Chinese middle class. Not all of us live in Europe. If you go to Kinshasa and ask if they will eat fish that is not this and that, they will be very happy if they have a piece of fish to eat, you know. So we are discussing here that, of course, there are global differences, but there are also major challenges. And if I may end this little intervention by saying my slogan is shifts happen. Has been for a while. Shifts happen, and they really do, at a pace and a tempo that we haven't experienced before on this earth. And this is called exponential growth. And you know, 2 by 2 is 4, 4 by 4 is 16, and 16 by 16 is definitely not 32. So this is, you know, the curves we experience. And we have also this other major trend, which is that the population now, a majority of the population upon this blue planet of ours live in urban areas, and in very rapidly growing urban areas. So, can I talk about urban production also?
Yes, by all means.
Okay, because when we have this urbanization, I think it's important, if we're going to develop smart cities, that we also develop food production in line with the rest of the infrastructure. We experience now that most of the money spent now on the international funds will go on infrastructure and to build smart cities, and not for wars, hopefully. Which means that if we're going to cope with the population moving into the cities, we have to build 1 New York City per month, because that's the increase of the population. So, to my mind, the only smart thing to do is to build urban areas for food production. Also in multi-layer stacks with recirculating aquasystems in combination with green growth, energy efficiency, and we have to introduce concepts like bioresource management, energy efficiency, biodesign when it comes to building cities, so that we build for food production that is what I call KISS, and this is my last for this round. KISS is keep it simple, safe, smart, and sustainable.
I just would like to get that idea and ask for some examples. I don't know if in Norway there are any particular experiments done in urban areas with all those concepts that you've just mentioned.
There is one project funded by EU, which is a pilot on how to grow greeneries in another kind of greenhouse than we are used to, which is with plastic and bubbles that can control temperature to a greater extent than you can in ordinary glass-based greenhouses. That has been going on for some years, and very good results on controlling temperature, and this layer serving as an insulation, and you can control the temperature, because it's with fish, with greeneries, it's the same as with human beings. If we are well fed and exercised and we're happy, we are the best. And that goes with fish, with cucumbers, with salad, whatever. You know, if you create optimal growth conditions, you can grow year-round, and you can increase the produce, and you can earn more money. So this is actually an emerging project we're working on, and we call it the Blue City Project. And to mix this with the technology that is within RAS-based system, RAS-based system, with aquaponics. You can, you know, solids, waste, or what we call it now, rest raw material, can very well be used as plant feed. So how we design plant feed, how we design fish feed, I know we will come back to that. But we will explore this in a module. There is no such smart city, as far as I know, that includes the food production.
Well, but at least some pilot
experiments. It's a pilot project under development, but the bits and parts, they work. So what we want to try out is to see how they can interact in an urban environment.
Let me just speak on that and ask the industry guys. There have been some really tough challenges in the production in aquaculture. One of them is the supply of raw materials, food for the fish that's been grown, and that's where soy is one of the key elements. Many critics say that it's not sustainable long term. There are not enough land to support the production of soy that's going to be used in all sorts of areas, from fuels to, well, the food production. What kind of solutions does companies such as yours, Tiago, have for this problem?
It's a very interesting question, because you resumed a little bit yesterday presentation. That is, we don't believe in soy, at least in Europe, for instance. Just to give you a number, Europe is tremendous dependent on soy imports for third countries, which means the United States, Brazil, Argentina, and a few others. And actually, soy growth, the increase in soy production is being done with destruction of rainforest, which is a major sustainability issue. My point is that we should work in a way that will reduce waste of food, let's say, work with raw materials, work with the local ingredients that usually are not thought of. I can give you the example of Portugal. Portugal has a growing canning industry that generates byproducts, rest raw materials, and that still can be very useful. And so we can substitute part of soy with this meal coming from the food industry. But also we can improve or promote the usage of local cultivars like pea, like chickpea, that are typically European, and avoid carbon footprint. The idea here is, think we must not have a general solution for all our problems. We must, in order to address this problem, we must start for understanding where we are based, what we can do with the ingredients that are within our range, not going from the other side of the world to look for ingredients. And see, this is unfortunately with soy, and it's right that soy as being the major substitute for fish meal. This is clearly the situation. Soy is not the best ingredient, but it can be processed in a way that it can become a good ingredient. But we are buying it in America, both South America or North America, processing it in Europe again, and then using it. So it's not a very efficient way of thinking.
In terms of the challenges that aquaculture faces on the field of antibiotics, that's another hot issue that usually comes when some critics want to question the industry. Is there any recent evolution that you'd like to point out in terms of this particular problem? Mainly, I'm thinking about antibiotics, supplements, and all that area.
First, I would like to go back to the previous question on how we are going to find solutions. And I think conference like Biomarine is a good example, where here we are discussing what are the alternatives. And we see people talking about microalgae, talking about seaweeds, talking about alternative protein sources that are available and that can be used in aquaculture. Also, we know that there are a lot of byproducts that can be also used in the aquaculture industry. We are, for example, salmon. Salmon is a carnivorous fish. It needs animal protein. And now we are trying to transform a carnivorous fish into a vegetarian. There are a lot of byproducts from animal protein that can be used in the salmon industry or to feed species that are carnivores. And this is how we can turn the industry more sustainable, is using these alternative sources that are there and we can use to produce high valuable protein. Going back to your question regarding antibiotics, we know that in terms of impact or the perception of the public or the consumers on the negative aspects of aquaculture, environmental issues and antibiotic residues is one of the major problems. But the industry has developed a lot. If you look at the salmon industry, you will see that a lot of very small amounts of antibiotics are being used. It's mainly vaccines, and then the industry uses a lot of functional feed additives. So these are additives that can actually boost the immune system of the animal so that the animal is more ready. It does not need antibiotics. We see more problems in antibiotics in Asia, where the industry is not so developed, so antibiotics is still seen as the resource.
Let me just tease you a little bit. Are we talking about nutraceuticals for fish or something similar?
Correct. For example, in Biomine, we developed this nutraceutical, we call it sustainable feed additives, and these are additives that can improve the health of the animal, can improve the gut health, can improve the efficiency of utilization of certain nutrients. And these are substances that are natural substances, and we are talking about probiotics, prebiotics, immune stimulants, phytogenics, that are components that come from nature and that you can apply into the animal. And by this, reduce the use of antibiotics in aquaculture production. We see already, for example, a big shift from the shrimp industry, where before the application of antibiotics, it was widespread in the industry, and now you see that the industry is moving more into the application of probiotics to manage the pond conditions, to reduce the presence of pathogenic bacteria in the pond. They are using more the immune stimulants so that they reduce the use of antibiotics. And this comes because of pressure of the consumer. The shrimp industry is produced in Asia, but is exported and it's consumed mainly in Western countries, US, Europe, and also in Japan. And there's the conscience, the perception that antibiotic residues is not a good thing. So you see that there is checks. So the industry had to reinvent itself to prevent that more antibiotic residues were occurring in their product.
Let me just ask someone that deals with the consumer directly, what kind of new ways of approaching the food chain does the consumer, from your experience, and you're mainly in Portugal and in Poland, have changed in the last years? People still address the flavor issue. because it was, at least here in Portugal, sometimes it was commented, well, it's aquaculture, it's not the same flavor as wild species. What kind of evolution have we seen in that particular aspect?
Okay. First of all, I believe that generally speaking, consumer clear understands there are fish from aquaculture and from wild catch. They know that such different exist, but they accept the aquaculture fish more and more. They clearly understand that there is not enough wild fish for feeding. So in the consumer mind, eating fish is healthy, is healthier than eating other kind of protein. So they prefer to eat aquaculture fish rather than other type of protein. So
animal protein, I suppose.
Yeah.
Animal protein.
Yes, yes, animal protein, of course. So consumer knows that aquaculture have some issues related with some antibiotics or some not natural ingredients that fishes are, let's say, in contact with, but they are much more concerned with the impact on the fish itself. That means on the fish that can be contaminated by something, and this can pass to them when they are eating the fish, rather than other aspects of side effects in the environment or whatever. So I believe that what Pedro was saying, it's very important. These kind of changes that are happening on this aquaculture production or feeding the fish should be somehow passed to the consumer, some mass communication, because this will help to, let's say, to bring down some existing barriers by not knowing the reality of the changes of evolution of developing in this industry. And in fact, just to finish concerning the taste, today we can see that this is an issue that it's not so relevant as it was a few years ago. So taste of aquaculture is different. This is something more in mind, because when you do a blind test with consumers, majority of them will prefer the taste of aquaculture fish in some species, even because they get used to that in the last years, so they don't notice this difference unless that, let's say, they know that they are eating wild or aquaculture fish.
I suppose that Tiago was wanting to add something on this. We were just talking about this example a few minutes ago.
I was commenting with Pedro. A very, very important sign.
So in a blind test,
in a blind test, consumer usually prefers aquaculture because the fish tends to be a little more fat and the flavors in the fat. And it's true, we had some issues related to people didn't like it in the beginning, but what happened really, they get used to it, and today they don't live without it. It's actually disease. And one of the most important signs of it is in the retailers, the percentage of fish that is coming, or shrimp that is coming from aquaculture, versus what is coming from wild catch. Today, I don't know if you can give us a number, but I'm sure that
I think it would be interesting to know what kind, at least in the Portuguese, in the Polish market.
Let's say in Portugal, at least our experience, we can see clearly that aquaculture is growing, and let's say today also depends, because wild fish depends a lot on the availability of some fish. For instance, this year was a very bad year for sardines, which is one of the most captured fishes in Portugal. So, and this can, let's say, speed up the trend of aquaculture growth. But let's say in this year, we have 55% of wild catch fish and 45% of aquaculture fish. But also this depends a lot on natural conditions that some fish can be more available or less available. So this can change year to year, but the trend is there in the last years, and also or in European markets we can see consistent growth of aquaculture fish. And I believe in a few years, if demand will still growing in the level that is in the last years, we will have more consumption of aquaculture fish than wild.
I believe that Rita wants to add something on this issue.
Yeah, I just want to mention the numbers from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. They say that to cope with the need of increased food production, they estimate that 62%, it's a very precise number, will come from aquaculture, both land-based and based in the oceans. And of course, it's interesting what will the land-based fish be fed, or the salmon be fed. In Norway now, I hear that they will eat Christmas trees. And yeah, and also to be more serious, this is not my field of expertise, but from weed to feed to go via algae, one of our experts, Odd Magne Rødseth, who is here maybe, he has also mentioned that we have to look into microalgae as a source of nutrition for the feed. But you know, the big picture is, to go back to the big picture, because there might be, if we now look at what are disastrous in managing the oceans, first we exploit too little for consumption. Only 3% of the food comes from the oceans, and there are vast resources yet to be exploited, maybe in several layers of the chain, eco chain. And there are several species, and the depths of the sea are yet to be explored. I read about an 11-armed, strange, 4,000-meter animal they have never seen before. The Chinese had mapped this one. And other kinds of species I've heard from the Nansen boat of Norway, when they map the bottom and the deep sea, they find a lot of creatures. And I hear one estimate saying there are 11,000 species in the sea. And in Norway, we depend very much on the pink one. You know, so that is not pink enough because it's been cultured and colored. You can do a lot with nano coating and all kinds of technologies these days. But in a dystopic future scenario, we could experience a deadly triad of pollution, climate changes, and overfishing that can make the sea black. And then guess who's not coming for dinner? That's the wild fish. So there are things we have to look into to manage the seas in a more sustainable way. And I want to say then, for Portugal, I haven't looked into your strategy for the sea, that I'm very impressed about the ambition and the courage and the will to really be back on track, to return to the sea, so to say. Portugal is sea, and looking at our planet, as has been mentioned before, our planet is also blue. Seen from space, our planet is blue, and we have been talking earlier, because you haven't been here, Luis, listening to what has been said in the opening speeches, that, oh, we have explored the universe and the, astronomers, other planets, but we don't know much about our own sea. And when it comes to ocean space, knowledge, exploration, and management, I think that is yet to come, and I expect Portugal to be a leading force. You have already this project Rainbow, where you look into protection of the high seas, which is a very good one. And I think Norway and Portugal together will make a great force in this context in EU.
Let me just ask the production. In terms of the potential, we can see exactly what Rita's just been saying. There's a huge potential in food production in the ocean, and especially Portugal as a vast piece of ocean that's under our jurisdiction. What are the main and key challenges in food production, in aquaculture? I'm thinking about offshore fish farms. Tell us about that, and how is it possible to manage this in a sustainable way?
Certainly it is. Just to give you an example, when you look to a very well-known for nutrition scientists graph from FAO that shows the evolution of wild catch and the evolution of aquaculture, it's very, very clear that we have been able to increase production in aquaculture without extra resources. So this is clearly something that is already happening. The problem with going offshore or going with the other extreme environments is exactly that. That is extreme environments. We need technology. We need to understand what we are doing, and we need to accept that there will be some processes that will not be done in some places. So we have to understand what we can do, and also that there are better places to grow fish or to grow mussels or algae, whatever. This means that I don't believe in a view that will say that we'll be obliged to go for that system. No, if we are able to do it, because from a technological point of view, there are still some challenges to be solved. But we have to think. In Portugal, yes, but Portugal is open to the world. I usually give the example from our own company, where the business unit of Aquafeed is a part of a growing part inside the company. But if we will not take the decision to go abroad and to export and to explore new markets, today we will not be producing aquafeed. This was a major important decision. And what I can give you today is that today we are selling 15% of what we are producing in aquafeed in Portugal. And this number is getting smaller year after year. So it's this mentality that we must keep open and regarding external other countries outside Portugal.
Can I add on this? Why do we always say that there's a big potential in aquaculture? There is a big potential in aquaculture because 70% of our oceans is covered in water. And most of our fruit production is coming from land. But now there is no more land available to expand food production. So we have to go and look into the sea. So far we have been looking in terms of aquaculture operations close to the coastline. The future, I think, is going to be to move more offshore. Unfortunately, until now there is still not available technology that can allow us to move further away from the coastline and explore more the oceans. We see already some new developments. I've seen here a boat, the transformation of oil tankers into production of aquaculture. People are talking about a symbiotic between windmills and aquaculture, or oil rigs, and transform oil rigs, or in those oil rigs that are no longer operational, to transform them and have aquaculture clusters. I think this is going to be the future. Also, another important thing is, one limited factor in terms of food production is water. If you look at the oceans, we don't need fresh water because we are a process that is using saline water, and salt water is not used by us, and there is a lot of it. So I think it's how it's going to make the growth of protein production more sustainable and in quantities enough to feed the world. Then the challenge is going to be how to find ingredients to feed all the fish. And that's why we are here talking about algae, seaweeds, byproducts, single-cell proteins, insect milk can also be another thing. And then is using other food ingredients that are still not used, but with technology like enzyme technology, you can unlock the potential of these ingredients to be used in aquatic feed.
Since you've mentioned new sorts of products, ingredients, I'm going to ask you in the retail part, how open-minded is the consumer to these new products? You've just been tasting in the lobby chlorella ice cream. So this also has huge potential in terms of food production. Not always thinking about fish, but sometimes something below in the food chain, like algae. Is the consumer ready for this kind of innovations? What's your view on that?
When you are talking about mass consumption of anything, you can
still has to start from somewhere.
Yeah, you can talk about fish or fruits or whatever. Consumer, the price plays a key role. So let's say if the price is affordable, consumer is much more open to try to experiment something. But when the price is not affordable, you have a lot of difficulties in let's say introducing something in the regular habits or in a regular food diet of any population. So the answer to your question is depends. If you can combine both things, new products or new solutions with an affordable price, with some advantage that consumer clear understands, the consumer is open. If some of these aspects is not present, you will have, usually we experience a lot of difficulties in introducing some new products.
Rita, in the beginning you just told us that sometimes it depends on the culture and the place where you are. For perhaps in some developed countries it doesn't matter where the fish comes from, as long as it's a source of protein. Nevertheless, we see a growing conscience in the Western consumer, and recently the European Union just adopted some very restricted labeling laws concerning the origin of the products, concerning the composition of the food that's on the supermarkets. How can we tackle these differences? Because sometimes, some countries reject the products that don't have certain characteristics.
Most people want healthy and safe food for themselves and their children. Not only the growing middle class in BRIC countries and especially in China. And if we have one child, then you can imagine it's even more important that they don't get polluted. We had this poultry scandal not a long time ago where they slaughtered all the chickens. So food safety and food security is of utmost importance to every living human being, and we deserve food that don't kill us or poison us and is not fake or sold under false conditions or marketing tricks, you know. That's for sure. But at the same time, I think the most important is, beside to control the quality and have the regulatory measurements in place, it's important that we, in these times when there changes so fast, that we can actually navigate accordingly. And looking into all the unemployed youth in Southern Europe that we have experienced lately, they say no fear, no future. They deserve a future, and I think the future is blue. As we say sometimes, women, the future is clear blue, because we can see life there. And some women might understand that. But you know, we need to understand, and when it comes to public acceptance, it's also about education, awareness, and to educate people to see solutions. And we have to be more brave, more innovative. We have to not think that there is no more land, because it's edible land that's scarce. There's a lot of land, there's a lot of wasteland, and there's a lot of space also on the surface of the sea for floating installations that you mentioned, both with the boat and others. And my last point being that Norway now, being an oil and gas country, we have a huge industry for technology and gear that is used for exploring, you know, deep sea. Portugal being mostly deep sea because you don't have the fjords and things like we do. You have, and now expanding your territory, you will have a major, you know, area of deep sea. So I see, and I think we have about 1,000 engineers from Portugal working in Norway also. So I think we could cooperate on solutions that could be both floating, go deeper, be more courageous, and I think we in Norway, we need the encouragement and the eagerness that we have experienced from the Portuguese here, talking both about your ministers, but also the attitude that Portugal really wants to play a role in this new maritime policy that also the EU is supporting. So that may be my final words. I'm looking forward to this cooperation in the blue growth, and I definitely think that the future lies in the blue, and the blue actually is the new green.
Let me ask you, in terms of the consumer, this labeling issue, is it a concern from your experience? Do consumers really focus on the label, try to look the origins, the origin of the products, ask for the nutritional components, if it's produced in a sustainable way or not, in terms of, well, for instance, the two different markets that you've just mentioned, like Portugal and Poland?
Let's say, if I have to answer you in a direct way, I would say that majority of them, they don't pay so much attention to that. But you can see a growing trend of consumers that are worried about that. They are asking for that, and they somehow they need to find some trust on the brands that they buy and the brands where they shop. So they are relying on the authorities and on the producers and also on the retailers that they can play that they can be sure, or they can ensure them that this is observed in a product when he buys it in a shelf. So I would say that there is not a big percentage of people that, a big percentage of consumers that are paying attention to the details, but
they are paying attention to the big picture, like Rita was saying a few minutes ago.
Yes, but let's say, they always think that it's not their individual issue.
So it should
it's
be
more
the
global,
regulators.
it's more from the others and from the big players. If they are, doesn't matter if they are authorities, if they are
the government
or producers or retailers or whatever, rather than them. But of course, they are more informed about that. They are paying more attention about that, and they are questioning more about that. And it's more visible in the nutritional aspects. But more and more, you start to observe bigger concern about origins, some kind of ingredients, and I believe this will be a growing trend in the consumer when it comes in the next years.
Just to finish, because we just have a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask you the same question to Tiago and to Pedro. The labeling, should it be improved? What are the views on the industry on this issue? In a couple of phrases, if that's possible.
I would say one of major problems of labeling is mislabeling, which is when you are selling fillet products, that you are selling pangasius and you call it Pacific dory, or you're selling cod that is not cod.
Even if there's not a security concern, there's certainly misleading or some sort of misinformation.
There's a lot of mislabeling and also from fisheries products. And that's why certification becomes an important issue. That products coming from aquaculture are certified, and we see a lot of certified movement or a lot of certified entities coming, and especially in Asia. Actually now this is becoming a problem because you have so many certification bodies that a farmer has to, if he wants to sell to Europe, he needs a certification. If he wants to sell to the United States, it's a different certification, and this is a burden for the farmer. But
it's a challenge, I suppose.
It is a challenge, so there is a need of some sort of unification of these certifying bodies. But with certifications, the customer is granted that he's buying a product that is safe, that is of high quality, and I think that is going to be the future. And this is also to avoid all the issues of environmental impacts, antibiotic residues, and so on.
So to resume and conclude,
I couldn't agree more with Pedro, but the only comment I have to make, agreeing that certification is needed, we must not transform certification in a business in itself. It's what is happening today. A farmer that wants to assure the client their procedures, the way of he produces, right now can, if he will pay for a certification, and this is not correct. It should not transform itself in a business, in a commercial relation. It should. So I don't know. It could be something we could transform commercial certification in something more institutional, more government-oriented. I don't know, something that would not be itself
a business.
A business. Exactly.
But that would be another hour of conversation, I suppose. We just have to finish. I thank you all for your kind contributions, and I say goodbye to the audience here and online. Thank you so much.